Look at the garden of your life, so meticulously maintained. Each flower positioned with perfect precision. Every blade of grass trimmed to society's exact specifications. But beneath this manicured perfection, something peculiar is happening. The roots are strangling themselves, desperately seeking nutrients in soil stripped bare by constant people-pleasing. You become the gardener who tends to everyone else's gardens while your own withers. Nice guy, they say, as if it's a medal of honor. But what they don't tell you is that this niceness is a golden cage, polished daily with the cloth of your own suppressed truth. I think of the absurdity we praise the chameleon for changing its colors to match its surroundings, yet we never ask what color it truly is. You've become so adept at morphing into whatever shade others need that you've forgotten your original hue. This niceness, this perpetual yes-man syndrome, isn't kindness at all. It's fear wearing a smile. Fear of rejection, fear of conflict, fear of standing in your own truth. You've learned to navigate life like a ghost present, but barely touching anything. Careful not to disturb, careful not to impact, careful not to be. But here's the cosmic joke. In trying to be everything to everyone, you've become nothing to yourself. The more you polish this nice guy facade, the more your authentic self suffocates beneath it. It's like trying to hold a beach ball underwater, exhausting, unnatural, and ultimately futile. The truth is, this carefully constructed identity is as artificial as a plastic flower, perfect in appearance, but devoid of life's essential chaos. Real flowers grow wild, bend with the wind, and aren't afraid to shed their petals when the season calls for change. The universe doesn't need another nice guy. It needs you raw, real, and unfiltered. The world doesn't need your perfectly curated responses. It needs your truth, even when it's rough around the edges. Especially when it's rough around the edges. The time has come to stop being the garden ornament in your own life and become the wild, untamed force of nature you were meant to be. Because the greatest paradox of all is that only by breaking free from this prison of niceness can you truly be of service to others. Consider for a moment how peculiar it is that we've come to worship niceness as if it were kindness's twin. But they're as different as a mask is from a face. Niceness is mechanical, calculated. A series of careful moves designed to avoid rocking the boat. Kindness. Ah, that's the raw, unfiltered expression of your true nature, like a spring bubbling up from the earth without concern for where its waters might flow. You've been taught that being nice means swallowing your words, smoothing your edges, becoming as inoffensive as possible. What madness this is. It's like telling a lion to file down its claws and expecting it to still thrive in the wilderness. Your agreeability has become a reflex, a nervous tic that masks your genuine responses to life's endless parade of demands. This perpetual agreeability casts a shadow longer than you might imagine. Every time you say yes when your entire being screams no, you're not just betraying yourself, you're feeding a shadow self that grows stronger in the dark corners of your psyche. This shadow doesn't disappear because you ignore it. It festers, manifests in subtle sabotage, in passive-aggressive gestures, in the quiet resentment that colors your supposedly nice actions. Watch how this shadow emerges in those moments when you're alone. Notice the rehearsed smiles falling away, the weight of unexpressed opinions pressing down on your chest. Your body keeps the score, as they say. And it's tallying every swallowed truth, every suppressed desire, every artificial yes that should have been an honest no. The cost of this emotional self-suppression is paid in the currency of vitality. Each time you contort yourself to fit someone else's expectations, you're spending energy that should be invested in your own growth. It's like trying to drive a car with one foot permanently on the brake. You'll move forward, sure, but at what cost to the engine? This isn't about becoming unkind or aggressive. It's about recognizing that your authentic self, with all its quirks, opinions, and rough edges, is not some demon to be exorcised. It's the very essence of who you are. The raw material from which genuine connections are forged. When you suppress this authenticity, you're not just hurting yourself, you're robbing others of the opportunity to know and connect with your true self. Think of how exhausting it is to constantly monitor your words, actions, and even facial expressions to maintain this nice guy image. It's like being an actor who never leaves the stage. Who's forgotten that the character he plays isn't who he really is? The script of niceness has become so familiar that you've forgotten how to speak your own words. Your emotions, even the uncomfortable ones, anger, frustration, disappointment, they're not inconvenient disruptions to be managed. They're vital signals from your authentic self. Like warning lights on a dashboard. When you ignore them in favor of maintaining your nice facade, you're essentially disconnecting your internal warning system. The bitter irony is that this suppression doesn't lead to better relationships. It creates shallow connections based on a manufactured persona. Real intimacy requires the courage to be seen, not just the skill to be agreeable. Your authentic self, with all its contradictions and complexities, is infinitely more interesting and valuable than your polished, nice guy performance. Consider this. What if your rougher edges, the parts of you that you've tried so hard to smooth away, are actually essential to your wholeness? What if your occasional anger is as sacred as your compassion? What if your ability to say no is as valuable as your capacity to say yes? Your authentic self isn't a problem to be solved, it's a power to be unleashed. The world doesn't need another carefully constructed nice guy. It needs the unfiltered truth of who you are, in all your magnificent complexity. Because in the end, true strength isn't found in the ability to please everyone, it's found in the courage to be unapologetically yourself, even when that self doesn't fit the nice guy mold. From the moment we draw a breath, society begins its relentless sculpting of masculinity. Look at how peculiar this conditioning is. Boys are handed toy soldiers and told to be tough, then reprimanded for expressing the very strength they're supposed to embody. This contradiction runs deep in the bedrock of our culture, creating men who wear invisibility cloaks made of forced smiles and careful words. The modern man finds himself caught in an absurd trap. Society whispers that real men are strong, decisive, and powerful, while simultaneously demanding a kind of sanitized pleasantness that strips away these very qualities. It's as if we're trying to create warriors armed with feather dusters, expected to conquer life's challenges while making sure not to disturb the dust. This cultural conditioning has created a false opposition between being nice and being assertive, as if these qualities exist on opposite ends of a spectrum. But this is like saying a master chef must choose between using heat or ingredients. It's a fundamental misunderstanding of the whole recipe of human interaction. Watch how this programming manifests in daily life. In meetings, you find yourself nodding along with ideas you disagree with. In relationships, you become a professional emotional contortionist, twisting yourself into shapes that please others while your own form grows increasingly unclear. You've learned to scan rooms for signs of disapproval like a prey animal scanning for predators. The unconscious patterns of people pleasing run deeper than mere politeness. They're etched into your nervous system like ancient grooves in stone. You've become so attuned to others' needs that you can predict and fulfill them before they're even expressed. This isn't efficiency, it's extinction of self. These patterns create an elaborate dance where you anticipate steps before they're called, morphing into whatever shape the moment seems to demand. You've become so good at this dance that you've forgotten you're allowed to choose the music. Or better yet, to stop dancing altogether, the true madness of this conditioning lies in its self-perpetuating nature. Each time you choose pleasing others over honoring your truth, you reinforce these neural pathways. It's like walking the same path through a forest until it becomes the only visible route, while other possibilities grow over with the weeds of neglect. This programming runs so deep that it masquerades as virtue. He's such a nice guy, they say, as if this were the highest praise a man could receive. But beneath these words lies a subtle cage, reinforced by every sacrifice of authenticity made at the altar of approval. The most insidious aspect of this conditioning is how it turns self-betrayal into a form of social currency. Your discomfort becomes the coin you pay for acceptance. Your silence the price of inclusion. Each time you swallow your truth to maintain peace, you're buying into the myth that your authentic expression is somehow dangerous or wrong. But here's the cosmic joke in all this. The very system that demands your compliance doesn't respect it. Like a game rigged from the start, the more you play by these rules, the more you lose yourself in them. The more you try to fit the mold of the nice guy, the more that mold becomes a coffin for your authentic self. What if this entire framework is based on a fundamental misunderstanding? What if strength and kindness aren't opposing forces but complementary aspects of a fully realized human being? What if the real measure of a man isn't found in his ability to please others, but in his capacity to remain authentic while navigating the complex web of human interaction? The time has come to recognize these patterns for what they are: not personal failings, but systematic programming that can be rewired. The first step toward freedom is seeing the bars of your cage, even when they're gilded with social approval. Fear drives your decisions like an invisible puppeteer, pulling strings you've forgotten are even attached. Watch how you navigate each day, every choice filtered through the lens of what will they think. You've become so accustomed to this fear-based decision-making that it feels like wisdom, but it's merely well-disguised cowardice. Your mind has transformed into an endless prediction machine, running countless simulations of possible reactions before you dare to speak or act. This hypervigilance masquerades as social intelligence, but it's really a sophisticated form of self-imprisonment. Each decision becomes a complex calculation of potential disapproval, every action weighed on the scales of others' imagined responses. The attachment to others' perceptions has grown into an addiction more subtle yet more powerful than any chemical dependence, like a stock trader obsessively watching market fluctuations. You monitor the subtle shifts in others' expressions, the minor changes in their tone, desperately seeking signals of approval or disapproval. This constant scanning drains your energy and distorts your reality. You've learned to edit yourself before you even speak, each thought passing through multiple filters of acceptability. Will this make them uncomfortable? Will this risk rejection? Will this disturb the peace? These questions have become your jailers, keeping you safely confined within the boundaries of others' comfort zones. The tragedy lies in how this prison of approval corrupts even your moments of apparent courage. When you do speak up, it's often calculated, sanitized, carefully constructed to minimize potential backlash rather than express genuine truth. Your bold moves are choreographed, your authentic impulses filtered through layers of acceptable presentation. This excessive accommodation has evolved into a form of self-betrayal, so normalized you barely notice it anymore. Each time you contort yourself to fit someone else's expectations, you're not just bending, you're breaking something essential within. It's like slowly selling off pieces of your soul in exchange for temporary peace, only to find that peace itself becomes impossible when you've traded away too much of who you are. The cost of this perpetual accommodation isn't paid all at once, it's extracted in small increments, in countless tiny moments of choosing others' comfort over your truth. Each instance seems insignificant in isolation, but together they form a pattern of self-erasure that gradually hollows you out from the inside. Your relationships have become elaborate dances of avoidance, each step carefully measured to prevent any possible friction. But in avoiding all conflict, you've also avoided real connection. True intimacy requires the courage to be seen. Yet you've mastered the art of remaining invisible even in plain sight. The most insidious aspect of this prison is how it convinces you that safety lies in conformity. But this safety is an illusion the more you seek it. The more fragile you become. Each compromise weakens your psychological immune system, making you more susceptible to the very disapproval you fear. This approval-seeking behavior creates a feedback loop. The more you base your actions on others' reactions, the less capable you become of acting from your own center, like a plant constantly pruned into an unnatural shape. Your authentic self begins to forget its natural form. Yet within this prison lies the seed of liberation. The very awareness of these patterns is the first crack in the walls. The recognition that your fear of disapproval has become more painful than disapproval itself is the key that can unlock your cell. Consider the paradox. In trying to ensure everyone's approval, you've lost the only approval that truly matters, your own. The prison of approval promises safety but delivers only isolation, offers connection but creates only shallow performances, promises peace but perpetuates constant anxiety. The question isn't whether to break free, it's whether you can afford not to. Because while the world might prefer its nice guys safely caged in compliance, your soul is starving for the nourishment that only authentic expression can provide. It begins with a whisper from somewhere beneath the noise of social obligations, a quiet voice speaking your authentic desires. At first, these whispers seem dangerous, even forbidden. They speak of boundaries you've been afraid to set, of truths you've been trained to suppress, of needs you've buried under layers of accommodation. This awakening isn't gentle. It's like suddenly realizing you've been breathing through a straw when your lungs were made for deep oceanic gulps of air. Your authentic desires surge forward with the force of a dam breaking, and with them comes the terrifying recognition that you spent years living someone else's version of your life. Watch how your body responds to this awakening. Notice the tension in your shoulders when you say yes but mean no. Feel the knot in your stomach when you silence your truth to keep peace. Your body has always known what your mind tried to forget, that anger and frustration aren't enemies to be vanquished, but messengers carrying vital information about your boundaries and needs. You've been taught that anger is dangerous. That frustration is unbecoming of a nice guy. But these emotions are as natural as rain, as necessary as storms that clear the air. When you deny yourself permission to experience these feelings, you're rejecting essential parts of your human experience. It's like trying to have day without night, summer without winter. The integration of your full emotional spectrum doesn't happen through meditation alone. It occurs in the laboratory of daily life. It's in the moment when you finally say no to an unreasonable request and allow yourself to feel the anxiety it produces. It's in standing firm when someone pushes your boundaries and feeling the surge of nervous energy without trying to suppress it. Your anger holds wisdom. Your frustration carries insights. These emotions aren't character flaws, they're integral parts of your internal navigation system. When you feel anger rising, it's often a signal that a boundary has been crossed. When frustration bubbles up, it's frequently pointing to needs that have gone unmet. This awakening requires a radical redefinition of what it means to be good. The old paradigm taught you that goodness meant the absence of conflict, the suppression of negative emotions, the constant sacrifice of self for others. But true goodness includes the capacity to be firm, to express dissent, to stand unmoved when others demand you shrink yourself to make them comfortable. The integration of your shadow aspects, those parts of yourself you've been taught to reject, isn't about becoming someone else. It's about becoming fully yourself. It's recognizing that your capacity for assertiveness is as valuable as your capacity for kindness. That your ability to say no is as important as your ability to say yes. As you awaken to your full emotional range, you'll notice how others react. Some will resist this change, preferring the old, compliant version of you. Their discomfort is not your responsibility to manage. Like a flower breaking through concrete, your growth might disturb the structures built around your suppression. Your awakening ripples out into every aspect of your life. You begin to recognize desires you've buried so deep you forgot they were yours. Dreams you dismissed as impractical or selfish resurface, demanding acknowledgement. The voice of your authentic self grows stronger, no longer content to whisper, but ready to speak its truth with clarity and conviction. This integration isn't about swinging from one extreme to another, from total compliance to complete rebellion. It's about finding the dynamic balance that allows you to access all parts of yourself as needed. It's the wisdom to know when gentleness is called for and when strength must show its face. The awakening brings with it a new kind of peace, not the false peace of suppression, but the authentic peace of self-acceptance. You begin to trust your emotional responses rather than judge them. You learn to listen to the wisdom of your anger, the guidance of your frustration, the truth in your dissatisfaction. This is the path to wholeness, not through the elimination of what we've labeled as negative emotions, but through the integration of our entire emotional spectrum. Each feeling becomes a color in your palette, allowing you to paint a more authentic and vibrant life. Remember, this awakening isn't a destination, but a continuing journey of self-discovery. Each day brings new opportunities to choose authenticity over approval, truth over harmony, self-respect over people-pleasing. The nice guy doesn't die, he transforms into something far more powerful. A fully integrated human being capable of both fierce boundaries and genuine compassion. The art of setting boundaries begins not with words, but with presence. Before speaking, learn to rest in the uncomfortable silence of your own truth. Notice how the impulse to immediately smooth things over, to rush in with reassurance, comes from a place of old conditioning rather than genuine need. Your first boundary is with yourself, the commitment to honor your inner signals before they become screams. Start small. When someone makes a request, pause. Create space between their ask and your response. In this space, ask yourself, what do I actually want? What can I genuinely offer? This pause isn't selfish, it's the foundation of authentic interaction. Practice saying no as a complete sentence, not no, but or no. Because just no, feel how it sits in your mouth, how it alters the air in the room. Notice your impulse to soften it, to explain it away. Stay with the discomfort. Like building any muscle, this becomes easier with practice in authentic communication. Clarity trumps cushioning. Instead of maybe we could possibly consider, say, I disagree, or I have a different perspective, your truth doesn't require elaborate packaging to be valid. When expressing needs or setting limits, use simple, Direct language? This doesn't work for me, or I need time to think about this. Learn to recognize and name your emotions in real time. Replace "it's fine" with "I'm feeling frustrated" or "I'm uncomfortable with this." This immediate naming cuts through the fog of nice guy habitual responses and places reality on the table where it can be addressed. Healthy conflict isn't about winning, it's about clarity when disagreement arises. Stay present with it rather than rushing to resolution. Practice phrases that maintain both connection and boundaries. I value our relationship and I need to be honest about this, or I hear what you're saying and I see it differently. Develop the skill of setting boundaries proactively rather than reactively. Instead of waiting until resentment builds, establish your limits up front. I can help with this project between 2 and 4 p.m. rather than a vague "sure, I'll help." Specific boundaries are harder to violate than ambiguous ones. Your body is your most reliable boundary sensor. Before responding to requests or engaging in conversations, check your physical responses. Tension in the chest, a knot in the stomach, shallow breathing. These are boundary alerts asking for attention. Trust them above social programming. When others push back against your boundaries, and they will resist the urge to justify or defend, your limits aren't up for debate. Practice phrases that acknowledge without engaging. I understand you see it differently, or I know this is disappointing, and this is my decision. Embrace the understanding that conflict isn't a sign of failure, it's evidence of honest engagement. When you express your truth clearly, some discomfort is natural and necessary. This discomfort is the growing pain of authentic relationship replacing superficial harmony. Start viewing healthy conflict as a form of respect both for yourself and others. By engaging directly rather than through passive compliance, you honor everyone's capacity to handle reality. This shift transforms confrontation from something to be avoided into an opportunity for deeper connection. Create a personal inventory of your automatic yes responses. Notice where you habitually agree without consideration. These are your growth edges, the places where boundary practice is most needed. For each automatic yes, practice inserting that crucial pause for self-consultation. Develop awareness of your energy levels and capacity. Nice guy conditioning often leads to overcommitment. Treating energy as an infinite resource. Start budgeting your energy like financial resources. Some must be kept in reserve. Not every request deserves investment. Learn to distinguish between responsibility and overfunctioning. You're responsible for your actions, words, and boundaries. You're not responsible for others' emotional reactions to your boundaries. This distinction is crucial for maintaining healthy limits without guilt. Practice the art of the partial. Yes, I can help for 1 hour rather than taking on the entire project. This maintains connection while asserting limits. It demonstrates that boundaries and support aren't mutually exclusive. When old patterns surface, and they will treat them with curiosity rather than judgment. Each slip into people-pleasing becomes an opportunity to practice course correction. The goal isn't perfection, but progress. Not transformation, but integration. Your liberation requires consistent practice in real-world situations. Each boundary held, each truth spoken, each conflict navigated builds evidence that contradicts old fears. Your nervous system needs new data to override years of conditioning. Remember, the goal of boundary setting isn't to build walls, but to create clear channels for authentic connection. When you know your limits and express them clearly, you create space for genuine relationship rather than resentful compliance. The word no contains more power than all the reluctant yeses you've ever given. It's not just a negative response, it's an affirmation of your own worth, a declaration that your time and energy are precious resources worthy of conscious allocation. A sacred no isn't born from spite or rebellion, it emerges from the quiet certainty of self-respect. When you understand that every yes to others' demands is potentially a no to your own needs, the ability to refuse becomes not just important but essential. Think of your energy as a finite garden. Each time you say yes, you're choosing where to plant your seeds. Most have scattered their seeds indiscriminately, wondering why nothing grows to full bloom. The sacred no is the gardener's wisdom to leave certain plots empty, to refuse planting where the soil isn't right. The power of conscious refusal lies not in the act of declining, but in the space it creates each time you say no to what doesn't serve your authentic path. You create room for what does. It's like clearing weeds to allow your chosen plants to flourish. But this requires discernment, the ability to distinguish between what feeds your soul and what merely feeds your need for approval. Selective investment of energy isn't selfishness, it's stewardship. Your life force is too valuable to be spent on every request that comes your way. Watch how nature operates. A tree doesn't extend its branches in every direction, seeking to please all possible viewers. It grows toward the sun, toward what nourishes it. The art lies in learning to say no with grace but without apology. Your refusal doesn't require justification. "I won't be able to do that" carries more integrity than an elaborate excuse. The simple truth of your no, standing naked without decoration, holds power that no embellished maybe can match. This selective engagement naturally leads to a shift in relationships from quantity to quality. As you begin to consciously choose where to invest your energy, certain connections will deepen while others naturally fade. This isn't a loss but a refinement, like a sculptor removing excess stone to reveal the masterpiece within. Your relationships become more authentic when they can withstand your no. Those who respect your refusal, who can hear your boundaries without attempting to breach them, these are the connections worth nurturing. The others, those who demand constant yes, who react to boundaries with manipulation, they show you where pruning is needed. Consider how many of your current commitments, relationships, and activities were chosen by your authentic self versus accepted by your people-pleasing pattern. The sacred no becomes a tool for reclaiming your life's direction, for sculpting your days according to your true values rather than others' demands. This isn't about becoming unavailable or isolated. It's about being selectively available, consciously engaged. When you do say yes, it comes from a place of genuine choice rather than compulsion. These chosen yeses carry a different energy. They nourish rather than drain. The art of sacred no requires practice. Start with small refusals, decline an optional meeting. Bow out of an energy-draining social obligation. Postpone a non-urgent request. Notice how your body responds to these no's. Feel the initial discomfort, and then the subtle release that follows. Your no becomes sacred when it springs from self-knowledge rather than reaction. This isn't the no of the rebellious teenager, but the no of the wise elder who knows the value of careful resource allocation. It's the no that comes from understanding that your energy is not just a personal resource, but a sacred trust. As you master this art, you'll find that your no's become clearer, stronger, more graceful. They become expressions of self-respect rather than acts of defiance. And paradoxically, as you become more selective with your yeses, they become more meaningful, more impactful, more alive with genuine commitment. The sacred no isn't just about refusal, it's about reclaiming your power to choose, to direct your life's energy according to your authentic values and deepest truths. Strength and compassion are not opposing forces, they're two wings of the same bird. Without both, flight is impossible. Watch how nature demonstrates this truth. A mighty oak offers shade while standing immovable. The ocean shows both power and gentle nurturing. This is the synthesis you're moving toward. Natural authority flows from self-alignment, not from force. When you stand fully in your truth, there's no need to puff yourself up or tear yourself down. It's the difference between a mountain and a billboard. One simply is, while the other tries to convince. Your presence becomes like that mountain, unshakable not because it's trying to be, but because it's fully what it is. This isn't about replacing niceness with toughness. It's about transcending both to find authentic expression. Natural authority emerges when your outer actions align with your inner truth. It's the quiet confidence of someone who has nothing to prove and nothing to hide. Self-respect forms the bedrock of genuine connection. Without it, relationships become transactions, trading pieces of yourself for moments of approval. But when self-respect becomes your foundation, relationships transform into explorations rather than negotiations. You're no longer trying to earn love through compliance, but offering others the gift of your authentic presence. The integration of these seemingly opposite qualities, strength and tenderness, boundary setting and openness, self-care and caring for others, creates a new kind of power. It's like water, capable of both carving canyons and nurturing life. This integrated power doesn't demand attention. It naturally commands respect through its consistency and truth. Your relationships begin to reflect this integration. As you honor both your strength and your compassion, you attract connections that can hold this same complexity. The forced niceness that once characterized your interactions dissolves, replaced by something far more valuable: genuine presence. Watch how this balance manifests in daily life. When someone makes a request, you can now respond with both kindness and clarity. Your no carries no hostility. Your yes holds no resentment. Each response flows from a place of integrated authenticity rather than social obligation. This is the paradox of true strength. It requires no defense. When you're grounded in self-respect, challenges to your boundaries become opportunities for deeper authenticity rather than threats to your stability. Like a bamboo stalk, you can bend without breaking, adapt without losing your essential nature. The foundation of self-respect allows for a more nuanced understanding of service. You can give freely because you know your limits. You can care deeply because you're not depleting yourself. You can love authentically because you're not seeking validation through your giving. This integration creates a natural gravitational pull. Others sense the congruence between your words and actions, your strength and your compassion. They respond not to a crafted image, but to the authenticity of your presence. This is the true end of the nice guy, not through rejection of kindness, but through the elevation of kindness to its authentic form. In this balanced state, you become like a well-tuned instrument, capable of playing both soft melodies and powerful crescendos as the moment requires. The forced performance of niceness is replaced by the natural flow of authentic being. This isn't the end of your journey, it's the beginning of living from your integrated center. Look again at your garden, but this time, see it not as a cage of careful cultivation, but as a wild and sacred space waiting to express its true nature. Those roots that once strangled themselves can now grow deep and strong, nourished by the soil of authenticity. The time of being the perfect gardener, trimming away every authentic impulse, is over. Your garden doesn't need more pruning, it needs permission to grow according to its own nature. The weeds you've been taught to fear, they might be the very medicines your soul requires. Each moment presents a choice to continue the performance or to stand in your truth. Your authentic expression isn't just a gift to yourself. It's your contribution to a world drowning in pretense. The universe hasn't been waiting for another nice guy. It's been waiting for you, the unfiltered, unedited, untamed you. This integration of all your aspects, the strong and the gentle. The fierce and the kind isn't just personal growth. It's evolution. It's the transcendence of false dichotomies that have kept you caged in the role of the perpetual pleaser. Remember, nature doesn't apologize for its storms, nor does it justify its sunshine. Your authenticity needs no defense. Your truth needs no explanation. Your power needs no permission, but the garden of your life awaits your authentic tending. Not through forced niceness or calculated moves, but through the raw honesty of being fully alive, fully present, fully yourself. The choice is yours now. Will you continue to manicure yourself into acceptable shapes, or will you dare to grow wild and true? The world doesn't need your careful performance. It needs your authentic presence. Step into it, own it, live it. Your time is now.